It's Tuesday. I'm supposed to have. I told myself every Friday I'd have a new video to upload. It's kind of a way to push me in. Recorded one, didn't even start editing it. I have ideas, just don't have the energy for it. And if you were one of the, 30 people. If you're one of the 30 people that watched my video on Burnout, you know that I kind of hit a point in this thing already, and it's only like 4 weeks into the process. Burnout's a very funny thing, and even when you look online for the things that cause burnout or things to overcome burnout, I feel like it tries to oversimplify it. Like the medical model, that's what it follows. The medical model is you find the symptom, you identify the cause, and then you prescribe something, whether it be medicine or a certain type of intervention or therapy. And I think that you can look at burnout with that lens, find a simple solution for it, but it doesn't make it really easy for people who suffer from burnout for long stretches of their time. I don't know, I worked a lot my past many years. Burnout, I guess, was just kind of my thing. I didn't identify it as burnout, it was just kind of normal for me. So to really see how the burnout was preventing me from engaging with my hobbies, was causing my anxiety, was causing my depression, that was the challenging part. So I'm gonna take this video to kind of simplify how I see burnout, what works for me, and hopefully it makes sense to you. Plus it'll solve my issue of trying to get a video up in this week, because I have to get one up in 3 days, so I'm gonna stay on track. So if we were to look at, just going on Google for a definition for it, finds it as a state of complete mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion, often caused by prolonged or excessive stress. It's like running on a treadmill with no end in sight, feeling increasingly drained, unable to keep up. So that's a very basic idea, and I'm assuming everyone's experienced burnout in some form like that. But a key word in there is prolonged and excessive stress. What is stress? To do that, I'll first point out the difference between stress and anxiety. We all kind of use them interchangeably. I feel stressed, I feel anxious. This thing was giving me stress and anxiety. They're not really the same thing. Anxiety is much more of a feeling that we have, and stress is much more of a thing that happens. And then we can identify the feeling of stress. That's becoming, how am I gonna word this? That's becoming much more normal. But a term is only good if it helps you solve a problem. So if you kind of mix stress and anxiety together, you're not really understanding them in their essences, and you're not able to use them then to their full advantage. Stress is essentially change. Like, stress wasn't part of the psychology literature until the 1950s. Some guy borrowed it from applying stress to something. Like if I were to take this pen and I were to bend it in this direction, it's an expensive thing. If I were to take a pen, bend it in this direction, I'm applying stress from the finger here going down and from the thumbs on the bottom going up, putting pressure. And the pen is resisting. There's a lot of resistance to this pen, so it stays very straight. But stress is that change. It is the things in life that are forcing us to do something. Like if we could sit on a couch all day, that is going to be the least stressful environment for us. But we still have to get up. We still have to, eat food. We still have to go to work, family obligations, whatever it may be. So whenever we feel it's stress, when we say, I feel stressed, at least the way I interpret it is that you are feeling the pressure of life asking you to do demands when you may have other obligations. So if you can imagine your life as this pen, you have your work obligations here, your education obligations, your social obligations on this end. And then if, work tells you, hey, congratulations, we have this promotion, you're gonna be making a lot more money, which you initially are gonna think it's gonna make your social obligations much easier. You can spend more money on entertainment. Family obligations, if you have to take care of a family. Education obligations, you could start paying back student loans. You think it's gonna make everything much easier, which it does if you make more money. But that work obligation makes you salaried, which means you're now on call, which means you may have to go into the office at random points of the day. You may have to do 11, 12-hour days. It'll take away a lot of your time from enjoying time with your friends and your family. You're gonna be spending less time. It's falling outside of your structure here. So that pressure is gonna disalign you. And when that happens, we feel the pressure, literally. So that's stress. Anxiety is much closer to fear. They're actually pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that with fear, the threat is right in front of you. It's like if you're going into a forest and you see a bear in front of you, that is fear. Anxiety is the worry that something bad is going to happen to you in the future. So, if you go into a forest and you see a bear, if you get away and you go back to that same forest, you're probably going to feel that anxiety because you're feeling that anticipation you're going to run into a bear again. And that's why anxiety is so damn difficult, because we all put these worries into our head thinking that something bad's going to happen, when 9 times out of 10 the worries are not as bad as we think it is. So to follow me along with this, we're going to go on. Stress is a thing. Anxiety is a feeling. You identify the two. Stress can make you feel anxious. Anxiety could be the result of stress, or it could be something that we, our perception that something is stressful to us. So how do we fix it? Some of those symptoms of burnout: you got exhaustion, you got cynicism, inefficiency, depersonalization, physical problems, and that's just it. Because of the additional demands that life is placing on you, you're going to feel overwhelmed all the time, or you're more apt to feel overwhelmed all the time. You don't get that chance to recharge because you are working so much, because you feel you have to meet the demands of life. And a lot of times, because you're meeting these demands, you don't really get a sense that you have control over them. You don't have control over how you meet the demands. You just feel like you have to meet them any way you can, which could be very scary. So now let's get into how to overcome this stress whenever you feel it. A lot of things that pop up on the internet is setting boundaries, taking breaks, getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, seeking support, practicing relaxation techniques, which is all generally good. I mean, I personally in my life assume boundaries are going to be the most important thing, because if your structure of life is having resistance put on it, you want to try to remove those resistances, because by removing those resistances, they're not applying the pressure. And then when they're not applying the pressure, you stay aligned, you stay much more relaxed in your zone. Now, if we go back to that analogy where you get the salary, you could take that pressure off by turning down the salary. You don't have to worry about the demands of that job. But if that job is going to increase your life satisfaction by increasing your salary at some point, you have to ask yourself, where am I going to make cuts in my life? Where am I going to make some small sacrifices? Maybe it means some negotiations with your friends to reschedule times. Maybe it means talking with your family about work obligations, but you let them know there's a trade-off, right? We're going to be having more money coming into the house. You got to figure out how to reorganize your life to let that resistance sit and be okay. Like, for instance, if I had putty, right? You have a piece of putty and you apply resistance, it's going to bend really easily. It molds to the resistance, the stress that is put on it. In some instances, we do need to be a little bit more like putty, but we also need to recognize when the resistance is too much, when we need to not have it press against our life and apply all that stress and anxiety. Let's talk about taking breaks. Taking breaks is obviously that same thing about setting boundaries. It's kind of saying no to the demands that you're not able to achieve at this point in time. You're pacing yourself out. But when we look at stress and anxiety, there are different ways to overcome both of them, because stress is a thing. Stress is a demand placed on you. You have to do something that you don't want to do necessarily. So to overcome stress, you're just going to do an activity that you want to do. That, in a sense, frees up your creativity. It allows you to enjoy whatever it be: TV, food, cooking, hanging out with friends. That's going to recharge your sense of self. It's going to boost your self-esteem. It's going to give you more energy. And then you're going to go back into the activity with more confidence, more self-esteem, feeling like you can actually do it. And that's why it's important to catch the burnout before it happens. You want to notice the warning signs before you get to that burnout phase, because with the burnout phase, you have a higher chance of not wanting to go to those activities. You literally just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. You just want to lay in bed and do nothing. A lot of the warning signs of becoming overstressed is getting anxious in your activity, getting irritated with people, depersonalizing yourself with people, disengaging with people. When you notice a lot of that, that's a sign that you need to take a break from work and go enjoy some time for yourself. Or it could mean to start set limits at work. Whatever it may be, talk to your boss, let them know that, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now, you need some time alone, and see if you can't work something out. With anxiety, because anxiety is a worry that something bad is going to happen to you in the future. It is a threat. Instead of feeling threatened, you want to make yourself feel safe. And this is really where a lot of those self-care activities that I see online comes on. It could be lying in bed, it could be sitting at home in your safe environment. It could be nuzzling up on the couch with hot cocoa, watching TV. It could be around friends. It could be taking a hot bath, hot shower. That's going to counteract that feeling of threat. And again, these are all very general ideas. Every single person's going to have a different case, and it's best to work with a therapist to really dive into all of those details and really understand the different elements that kind of go into it, so that you can come up with a plan that works for you, because that's the most important thing. I mean, you can go online, you can watch these videos, you can look at these ideas, and you can have someone at the end of a camera say, I am a therapist, this is what works, but it's not going to work for you 100% of the time. I mean, hell, I'm a therapist and I get burned out after 4 weeks of trying this activity. I'm not perfect in any of this. I don't think anybody is. Like when I was, making that last video, what was it? I was cooking something and then I got overwhelmed with the cooking process. So I decided to remove some of that resistance. I decided to not film the cooking anymore. I was just gonna cook the meal like I always normally do. It was a nice, easy process. It gave me still a relaxing night. I then used that experience to fuel that video. And then that gave me a lot more motivation to create the ideas. What is a hobby? And then we talked about the various types of hobbies, what a hobby is supposed to be doing for you. And then that gave me my creative juices to go to certain places, to talk about certain ideas, to try to experiment with B-roll. But then I had life smack me across the face and woke up one morning to find that my transmission fluid was all over the place at the bottom of my car. So one of my worst fears came to be, because living in LA, you need a car, always. Luckily, it was a pretty easy fix. So I got that fixed just yesterday. I was at work, I was planning to come home, have dinner, sit in front of the TV, be fine. But on my way home, I went straight to just the car dealership, just to talk about, hey, what can I, get for my car to trade it in. And just kind of went through the process and I got another car. There wasn't any really worry that came with that. It was more of, I'm in my mind of, I just need to do this. In a sense, I was detached from my own feelings. And now sitting here this morning, I'm kind of realizing that I got a new car. Like even after I got the car, I just came home, had dinner, and then went to bed as if nothing had happened, even though a car is a huge financial responsibility. I mean, all that to say, all of those things happening in my life factors into, if I want to maintain this schedule of, putting videos out once a week, I'm going to adapt. And I adapt by deciding I'm just going to sit down with my breakfast and a pad, full battery. I'm just going to let the camera run until, I feel satisfied or battery burns out. Just talk. Because you can only do so much as a human, especially if you're just one person. Like if you've got a whole team with you, obviously you can delegate certain people, but when it's just you trying to manage your own life, that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot to think about and focus on. So anyways, I hope my explanation and my view of burnout helps you in some way. If it does, great. I'd love to know your comments on it below. I don't know, I've kind of lived with it for a long period of my life. I know what it feels like internally to me, but knowing that boundary of when you feel balanced and when you feel burnt out, that's what I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know, hopefully it helps you. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.